Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm sure you know by now that the manifesto of the Nashville school shooter has been leaked, or at least 3 pages. The 3 pages made references to terms such as white privilege multiple times, a derogatory word used for white people was used, a derogatory term towards gay people was also used. So there's some people who are saying, questioning the authenticity of these 3 pages. So the parts that were released were obtained by Steven Crowder, and they were published on louderwithcrowder.com. And there were even people on the conservative side who were saying that it's a great thing that this information has come out, but they're letting their personal opinion of Steven Crowder overshadow what the significance of these documents are. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, these documents highlight how the left radicalized people, which we've all been concerned about for the longest time. While we're told that it's conservative news outlets that are brainwashing people, that are, radicalizing people into white supremacy, perhaps, all sorts of things that conservatives have been accused of. The reality is we've seen more evidence, as far as I'm concerned, of people being radicalized by the left with leftist ideology, to the point where, people are even against family values. People are even against the nuclear family, which was proudly declared on BLM's website before they removed it. How convenient. So these pages represent somebody who clearly was harboring self-hatred, because this is a white individual who did this. They're hating, their race, and also hating their gender. But it's ironic that this person wanted to transition into a white male, the most dangerous, damaging demographic in our society today, apparently. Well, in particular, a straight white male.
Several unanswered questions tonight, including who did this, are the documents authentic, and what has not been released. News 2's Nikki McGee is at the Alert Desk with more. Nikki.
Well, Bomb Haley conservative talk show host Steven Crowder spoke with us earlier today. He says these 3 pages were leaked by a Metro detective and then shared with their source, but he's doubling down that they are in fact authentic. One page is marked March 27th. That's the day of the shooting. Hill appears to write that this is the day that it has come and she is, quote, ready. The second page is dated February 3rd. It references white privileges and calls the kids a derogatory name, including a slur towards gay people. Finally, a third page shows a timeline. However, the attack happened earlier than described on that schedule. Now, Metro Police Chief John Drake described the manifesto just days after the shooting. Here's what he said that suggests there's more that has not yet been released, followed by Crowder on why he wanted these documents out there.
It's about the school. There was a map of the school, a drawing of how potentially she would enter and the assaults that would take place. It's quite a bit of writing to it. I have not read the entire manifesto.
So the conspiracy of different journal entries, well, I guess I'm the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist when I wonder why no one else procured this and why our national intelligence agencies and the local police decided to actively suppress it.
Now, we did follow up with Metro Police. They say they don't know if these images did in fact come from one of their detectives.
So we've had calls for this manifesto to be released for the longest time. We've seen, even since the tragedy in Nashville, there have been other mass shootings. There were mass shootings before what happened in Nashville. And manifestos are always released. Always. Motives are always given. At some point, a motive is given. We've heard talks of they wanted to avoid copycats. We've heard reports say that even the family members didn't want the manifesto released. Some family members. We've had court cases under the Freedom of Information Act to get these documents released to the public.
You think about the Old National Bank shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, 5 deaths. The motive to prove how easy it was to buy a gun and highlight America's mental health crisis and to kill himself. The manifesto leaked 10 days later or less. March 27th, 6 deaths, Aubrey Hale, no official motive released, manifesto not released yet. Is there a reason to think this isn't political? that this isn't a feeling by at least some, and we'll put the family and the school aside for a second, that they don't want to be talking about how someone who clearly had issues mentally was part of the trans community and how those two things intersected to create this situation?
Well, number one, of course, you aired what the police chief said, that, hey, we're going to get you this information. And of course, it hasn't happened. And the story from the police has changed. They've changed. And I think why they've changed is because of the information, or perhaps the...
Let me turn it around the other way. Why do you think it's so important that it come out?
Because we learn from experience. And as bad as this experience is, the information that can be obtained from the writings, and as you've pointed out, all these other shootings, the writings come out. And for example, the U.S. Secret Service has been studying specifically school shootings for decades. And in more than half of these instances, the shooter or the perpetrator leaves behind writings, be it a journal, manifesto, whatever. And by studying those writings, the Secret Service and the federal government have pointed out that many, many times over the years, other incidents have been stopped or disturbed. In other words, this saves lives.
In other words, releasing this saves lives. The bar to not release it, you'd think, would be fairly high. We appreciate it. We're going to keep following. I know other news organizations have dropped it, but we won't. Let us know how the lawsuit goes, all right?
Certainly.
At least the public should by now have been given a motive. But we're not allowed to ask questions because we're insensitive, apparently, if we ask questions. So now that it appears that it was children targeted because they were white, now that this information appears to be pointing towards that, it's clearer to me why it wasn't released, why the left in particular wanted to keep this information concealed. The left radical, liberal media that probably had a hand in radicalizing this person and who knows how many others. White people are automatically demonized for something that's out of their control. You can't control what your ancestors did. You have no control of what race you are. Yet it has been normalized to demonize certain groups of people for matters that are out of their control. Not to judge them on their character, but simply because of the color of their skin. That's where we're at now. If you're white, you have something to feel guilty about. People need to look at you with suspicion because of factors that are out of your control. And if you're black, you're a victim, and people need to see you as a victim. This is what the left teaches and wants to indoctrinate our children with. These were the pages that were released. Very, very disturbing, even a timeline of, events leading up to the actual shooting. Something as mundane as making breakfast, preparing equipment, and right up until the point of the shooting. So these pages reveal that the day of the shooting was referred to as Death Day, references to killing, obviously, in particular children, and going to a fancy private school with those fancy car keys, sports backpacks with their daddies' Mustangs and convertibles, and derogatory terms towards white people, towards gay people, and towards children. That's what it reveals. Nothing about, oh, you denied me hormones, or you denied me the opportunity for gender reassignment surgery and all this other nonsense that they were putting out there. Now, I don't know, that could be in other pages of the manifesto. These are 3 pages. I don't know if this is the whole thing. So the manifesto was believed to have been found in the car. The police were aware of it. They spoke about it at press conferences, but they never revealed, the details of the manifesto. You would think the writings of this monster would show what the motive was, and that was never revealed. So a spokesperson from the Nashville police spoke to Fox, saying that they are aware of the manifesto, but they don't know of its authenticity. So in a statement from the Nashville Police Department, they said that they're questioning the authenticity and the photos, the images aren't crime scene photos. So in a statement, police said, the MMPD is in communication with the Metropolitan Department of Law as an investigation, begun this morning, continues into the dissemination of 3 photographs of writings during an online discussion about Covenant School. The photographs are not MNPD crime scene images. The police department has been in contact with a representative of Covenant families. Police department counsellors are available to assist them in coping with the emotional trauma caused by their dissemination. And a surprising reaction came from Jeremy Boring, who seemed to make it more about his personal beef that he has with Steven Crowder than what these documents actually revealed. Crowder is a dishonest, spiteful, narcissistic scumbag who, even in his victories, can't help but portray most everyone else doing good work in our space, including those who have sued for the release of this manifesto, like the Tennessee Star, as somehow not sufficiently pure or dedicated or conservative. His no true Scotsman stick is offensive and tired, but credit where it's due. He landed a huge important scoop here. And people were responding saying, unless Crowder included some dig against Daily Wire in his reporting, I don't grasp the point of this digression. He did. He always does, Jeremy responded. Savannah Hernandez, she said, this is the pettiest thing I have ever read in my life. Our own FBI suppressed how white American children were targeted and murdered. Crowder got the scoop. The nation got clarity, and you chose to rehash some old beef that no one was even thinking about. Sad. Very true. This is huge. This is what we've been saying for the longest time. There are consequences to spewing racist rhetoric. These were white children who were targeted. Yes, the person who did it was white themselves. But there were also consequences to promoting self-hatred, to telling somebody that they have to feel guilty, that they have to feel like they have done something wrong just for being of a particular race, something they have no control over. No control over what their ancestors did or even didn't do, because not all white people descend from slave owners. Some white people even descend from slaves themselves. But we've honed in on this mentality that it's okay to perpetuate racism towards certain groups and not others. The left has done everything in their power to keep racism alive. And they continue to do that because they're making a lot of money race baiting and pushing all of this racist rhetoric. They're making a lot of money from doing that. We have Joe Biden telling us that white supremacy is the biggest threat in this country. Because when you put people in fear, they're easier to control. And it all comes down to this Marxist communist ideology that's being pushed in this country, that they want this country to go in. Private schools are bad. 2-parent families are bad or are privileged. But don't get me wrong, it is a privilege to have both of your parents together in this day and age. But that doesn't mean somebody should be demonized for coming from a 2-parent household. That doesn't mean somebody should be demonized for having parents who have the means to send them to private school. Radical left are brainwashing people, they're radicalizing people. They don't want people to think rationally these days. Instead of for people to stand by what they say, allow this manifesto to be released, they want information to be suppressed, like true communists. They want people to be denied access to information. They want people to be deceived even, because they want people to accept their version of events. They want people to accept their rhetoric, their narrative, and not make up their own minds. That's why they wanted this hidden all that time. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.